welcome at the Berlin Intercultural Forum on ExpatTax 2012, Taxation for Expatriates in Germany. A second round that will deal with questions of self-employed expatriates. And so still with me on the panel from the first round is Jens Goldstein, who works with Ernst & Young, our partner this evening. And now also on my right side joined me Christine Mino, who is an independent and self-employed tax advisor here in Berlin. And to my left, a very dear friend of mine, Irina Slotina, an expatriate from Russia, working also as an intercultural consultant in Berlin. But before we start talking too much about you, we'll just have a little look at the video sequence.
My name is Irina Slotina. I work as a Russian engineer, German MBA, and also as a consultant for intercultural communication. I think, of course, the German taxation is unnecessarily complicated, but it's not the German phenomena. Very many countries has even less system and logic in it. So, especially maybe for expatriates, it's even easier to go through. I think it was even my advantage in comparison to German employee, because people, the employees of tax department, they were, they wanna help me. They felt with me simply. For me personally, it was the lesson number one to understand that the appeal against tax documents, it's not a revolution. I will not go to the jail because I say no, I don't agree with that. It's just a very formal act. Everybody does it. That everybody has a right to do it. To open the discussion.
Opening a round of discussion. I found that a very interesting statement of you, Irina. You spent some part of your life in what was back then the Soviet Union, and appealing against a decision made by the state. You have to act like this or act like that. Appealing against that kind of decision was the first step you could take of the short route to jail. So I think from that background, I understand your statement that this freedom of you that you have here in Germany is quite unexperienced and unheard of for you. I think that is a very interesting thing, and I look to my experts here on the right and ask you, how approachable are the German Finanzämter, the tax authorities, to debate, to open discussion?
Well, I would say that they're not necessarily open to open discussion, but of course you always have the right to question their decisions. I mean, we're all people, we're all humans, we all make mistakes, so I might make a mistake when filing my return, as well as a tax officer might make a mistake when issuing the tax assessment, and you have the right to appeal against that. And you have a month where you can say, wait a second, I question these and these things in there, and I want you to take another look at it, and they will, which is a good thing.
So it's not the overall open debate about that, but at least you can appeal. Now, Irina is here as a self-employed consultant, and I also know that some of our guests here tonight are self-employed. They came to Germany starting a small business, many of them as consultants in various fields. What is the difference between a self-employed person coming to Germany and an employed person coming to Germany? Are there any special things that are different from what we discussed in our first round?
Yes, there are indeed. Of course, you have no employer who cares about your personal matters, so you have to do it all on your own. But the first steps are the same. You have to register with the municipal authorities, you have to apply for a tax identification number, And then you have to think about what kind of self-employment will you conduct here in Germany. Is it a really, in brackets so to say, a really self-employment, or is it rather a trade business? And depending on this question, you have to, when you have a trade business, you have to register with additional authorities. It's the trade authorities, this Gewerbeamt. And when you are self-employed, like a lawyer or a doctor, you have to register with your local chamber, for example. You have to prove that you are really a doctor, also from a German point of view. And the next step is, when you have your registration, when it's done, you have to think about, oh, okay, maybe the services which I would like to provide are subject to value-added taxation. So that means you have to apply for an additional tax number, the so-called VAT number, the value-added taxation number, or, for example, or additionally, for a VAT identification number, which is an international identification number.
And I would like to add something to that, that since you do not have an employer who collects the taxes for you and forwards them to fiscal authorities, you do have to take care of that yourself, and you do have to go to fiscal authorities to register your business, whether it's self-employed or a trade business, because the entire matter of taxation is something you have to take care of.
Mm-hmm. Where is this narrow line? I could imagine that there is a narrow line where you said, okay, I'm here and, well, I'm helping a friend and I'm just doing that and he's giving me a few €100 for that, never mind. And so maybe at some point a line is crossed where the Finanzamt will then say, okay, now it's getting very professional here and commercial. Is there any gray zone in that, or is there a clear line where you can say up to this point and not further?
I would say there's in any case a gray zone, because usually we don't have only 1 and 0, there's always a 0.5. But to make it this way, when you do your services with in a kind of frequent, so you do it not only one time a year, you do it several times a year. Or it's not only a friend, you have a second friend or a third friend, or maybe a friend of a friend. Then there is this threshold, you exceed this threshold where you have to register as a self-employed individual.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I think that is a very nice thing that we also look at in intercultural context. What is a friend and what is a business partner, and sometimes this overlaps. But indeed, we are making a difference in intercultural sciences between specific cultures and diffuse cultures. And in a specific culture, you say, okay, family is family, and friends are friends, and business partners are business partners, and there are things you do with your family, and there are things you do with business partners, and there are other things you do with friends, and you don't mix them up. And I also know that there are other cultures, for example, in the south of Europe, where it's getting a bit more diffuse, so that my preferred business partner would actually be my great-grandnephew's best friend or something like that. You know, you get the picture. So, because here I have a level of confidence and trust, and I think that is something where the Germans are really more minded to split the relationships. Business with business, family with family. So that's something I had to think of when you said maybe you have a second friend and a third friend, and at the end the Finanzamt will wonder, so how many friends do you actually have? Or are these really friends, or aren't these in fact business partners? And so.
Well, even if you just work for your friends and make your living of that, you will have to pay taxes on that.
So there is no such thing as a friendship service that you can just do.
The relationship itself won't keep you from it.
Mm. Irina, you have an intercultural comparison, being an intercultural trainer for Russia as well, looking at the specific and the diffuse thing, and who are my preferred business partners. How would you compare Russia and Germany with this regard?
So Russian culture is rather diffuse culture, maybe not that extreme like Arab countries, but it's still between us specialists. It's about uncertainty avoidance, and to avoid the uncertainty, people prefer to work with somebody who whom they can trust. Yeah, it's a matter of trust. So, so it's rather relationships and friends than matter of price. Mm-hmm. And also it's a matter of long-term relationships. So that's advantage also if you get into the friendship, business friendship with Russians. You can live with this business for many years.
Trust was this important word where I'm wondering, so how are we Germans in this regard? Do we trust people who come and approach us with tax declarations? How much trust is there in tax declarations when you go to the Finanzamt? Do they trust you? Is there at some point they need to verify things, but what kind of dimension does the term trust have in your field of work?
I would say in the first step, the tax authorities should trust your tax declaration. So it's written in law, you have to accept that, and of course you have to check the tax authorities check, are there any mistakes in it, are there any unreasonable events in it, but in the first step, of course, they have to trust you, because they cannot say you're a liar, do tax fraud, whatever. But the other way is, of course, you should be fair enough against the tax authorities to declare your income and to do it all in the correct way. And if you play with open cards, I would say, then it's, of course, the tax authorities will trust you, and there will no thing where they come up with a kind of, that you say you have to tax fraud or whatever.
Mm-hmm. I'm an American receiving income through the university in America and then taxed in America. So, what is the issue then with money that's earned there, especially in a self-employed area? Because I'm considered a self-employed, self-employed, but my income does come from America.
Actually, that depends. It's always the right answer as being a tax consultant. And of course, you have to differ where you, it's not important where you receive your income. It's actually important where is your business. And you have to take a look into the double tax treaty between Germany and the US to determine is your self-employed income, where is your business actually being done. So when you come to the conclusion maybe it's in the US, so it should be taxed in the US. Is it in Germany? It should be taxed in Germany. But when I understand the first part of your question correct, you ask how deals the tax authorities with it? And that would mean, okay, you have to declare your worldwide income in Germany, and of course your US income, which is correct tax in the US, will not be taxed twice here in Germany or a second time in Germany. So it will be tax exempt, but it will be considered when determining your German income tax rate. And there's no difference between self-employed income or employment income. It's always the same way. There might be different rules in determining where it is taxable, whether in the US or in Germany, but the system works the same way.
We conclude this second round, and I think we are just exactly where we started. The Finanzamt people are approachable people. They are humans, after all. This is not a machinery. Even the German authorities are approachable, and people are there, and sometimes they're in a good mood and you can talk to them, and sometimes they're in a bad mood, and it's like with a consultant, it's like with us.